Yeah, there you go. That's pretty normal.
Good one there, pretty stock?
Yeah, pretty much like a normal 7-iron.
Just smooth, yeah. Your stock flight on a 7-iron is not gonna look much like most people's. Even on a smooth one, your upper 130s ball speed. I saw you hit a few earlier that were well over 140.
Yeah.
I think the first thing people would look at, you hit a 7-iron, you're launching it at like 15 degrees.
Right. Which
would be uncommon. So a normal person comes in here, they ask, what should I launch my 7-iron at? Depending on their speed, it needs to probably be minimum 18.
Right.
Until you swing fast.
Right.
You're in the opposite camp where to keep your ball under 120, you have to launch it at 15.
And the reason for that is it's just traveling further, so the launch angle is going to carry it higher.
138 would be like a pretty good ball speed for a lot of people's driver, to be perfectly honest, like on a good strike. So yeah. So if you aren't launching at 15, you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah, it just goes.
And spin's the same. Like I think people will look at 5400 spin and be like what's going on with Drew's 7-iron? Like that's not going to work.
Right.
But it's coming in at 48 degrees. You'll hit that shot, and someone who doesn't know you will go that they won't believe that that's just like a normal 7.
Yeah.
Because it looks like a really nice 5, probably actually. Like a traditional guy's 5-iron flight. So your club path, are you usually TrackMan? You'd probably be around 5 and out. Is that safe to say?
Ish? Yeah, when I'm swinging, I'm hitting probably a bigger hook than normal.
Normal, okay.
But that's my tendency when things go bad. It gets more and more in out.
So you're definitely an in-out stock guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's balanced though, right? Like you're not in to out 6 and then 2 degrees down. Like you're still down. So those two to me are in balance.
Yeah.
So one thing I didn't think you'd say is your irons are actually a little bit upright to start with.
Yeah, so to be fair, this 7-iron is the length of so it's a new set of clubs.
Yeah.
This would have been the length basically of my old 9-iron.
Yeah.
So they're like 3 degrees up for what a Voda calls a stock 7-iron.
Yeah. The first thing, when you said that, I was kind of like, I'm surprised.
That's wild, yeah.
But then when you were hitting and I'm looking at your dynamic lie readings, they're all totally fine. It's not like the club's coming in toe up and you're hitting pulls.
Right.
So what I think is that because you're tall and normally this 7-iron would be 3/4 of an inch longer, that short club is effectively playing flat for you.
Right.
So they probably just canceled it out.
Yeah, right.
And obviously it does work. And your posture looks fine. You do look like you're hitting a shorter iron than a 7. I wouldn't guess that was 7 unless you told me.
Yeah.
That's the only thing it looks like. But knowing that it's having seen you hit it on the course, it is actually looks like very easy for you to hit you look like you're hitting a 9-iron 200 yards.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it looks like.
Right.
Which is a nice place to be. Takeaway's in a good spot.
Yeah.
So we talked a little off camera about head movement. So this is a stock 7. As you're taking it away, talk to me in terms of your head position. What are you working on? Because you had mentioned you feel like you might get a little bit too much lateral motion of the head.
Yeah, so I tend to go I have an early pressure shift, but then my sense of rotation, instead of some people like to not rotate and tilt.
Yeah.
I tend to swing my lead shoulder way around me and get my head sort of leaning off the ball. So it's not that I slide.
Yeah.
It's that I sort of bend my way off the ball.
Super interesting. So what you're describing is the feeling I give to 90% of the people who come in here. They need more of what you have.
Yeah, most people don't turn.
You're in a spot where you just need to reduce it a tiny bit.
Yeah.
But most people are doing the opposite. They're extending. They're sort of they're reverse tilting essentially.
Exactly.
And it's making them artificially steep.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's funny for you. It's just
polar opposite.
Club at the top's in a good spot. Do you like the look of this position? It looks solid
so
to me.
I tend to the thing I'm working on now is to get my trail shoulder, again for golf purposes, a little more under me. So that I don't get it like a flying elbow that cranks the club across the line.
Got it. It moves well in the downswing. It gets in front of you nice.
Yep.
Yeah, it gets in front of you nice. This is a nice position there.
Yep.
So we're going to do a little HackMotion wrist in a bit, because one thing people will look at here is obviously you swing quickly with low effort. So we know you retain very good angles of the wrist on that plane there.
Yep.
The question I guess for you, and we'll see on measurement, is how well does it come out?
Yep.
And at the right time?
Yep.
You may not feel this way, but playing with you yesterday, you definitely hit it a lot straighter than I think people would think. Impact looks good. So part of it is this reverse camera, obviously, because it's a little bit to your right.
Right.
But talk to me about you're not crazy open at impact with your lower body.
No.
Yeah.
No. I think people focus on that, but it's not I'm not a strong club face player.
Yeah.
If you were to scroll back, you'd see my backswing stuff. For a 7-iron, I get a little bit, my head's still a little back.
Yep.
So like I look a little bit this way coming into the ball with a 7 for me. Like I would like to see at like lead arm parallel on the downswing, you'd like to see the rib cage a little more towards the target.
Got it. Like physically that way?
Yeah, so like the lead shoulder, the upper body, the head.
More on top.
Yep.
Yep.
Then you'd probably see some more lean at impact.
Your swing's extremely efficient. I think people should look at that and go, okay, not everyone has to be like absolutely full body facing the target at impact. It's just not. If you learned that way from a young age, I think that's just what you have as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're standing on the force plates. Let's look a little bit at your force data.
Yeah.
I don't think I've done this on YouTube yet. I did some stuff on my Instagram. So I might just really quickly give people a rundown of what those numbers, what the colors are there.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of numbers here, a lot going on. It's very busy, but we'll keep it nice and simple. So I'm just going to give one camera view here of Drew from face on. The graphs are represented by purple is horizontal force. So it's literally measurements of how much he's pushing in that direction, which is under the graph, and in that direction, which is over the graph. So anytime you see purple up top, he's pushing towards the target.
Yep.
Yellow is just rotational force, so basically that way and that way, the hips turning as a result of force being applied through the feet. And then blue is vertical force, which is upward, obviously. Right. And you are standing on 2 plates, so we'll talk briefly about like what each foot is doing.
Yeah.
Because these don't mean that both feet are doing the same thing at the same time, or at least not ideally.
Right.
So the sequence of them happening should be, for most people that are hitting it well, horizontal force peaking first, which it is. Rotational force peaking second, which it is, and then your vertical force peaking third and last, which it is. And when your vertical is peaking, you should be kind of braking, meaning you're actually starting to push back away from it. This would be a very aspirational force production for someone to look at. This is really very little. I'm sure there's a couple things you might pick at here, but mostly I would say this is about as good as it needs to be. So the arrows out of each foot represent directionally and the amount of force that's happening on each side. So top of the backswing very early. This is what people I guess probably aren't familiar with. Yes. We are actually going to give a little bit of move back towards the target very, very early using your right foot.
Yep.
Get up to the top. You've already landed in terms of your pressure. You're already back here. So do you want to see, like right now, do you want to see this say like 70?
Yeah, with a 7 iron, the way I'm trying to hit it, 60.
Yeah. Okay.
And the dip in horizontal force, like where it kind of goes up, hangs out, and then dips.
Yeah.
That's me kind of like hanging back.
Okay. That makes sense. So you just more or less, we want to get a little more left side earlier so you can push off of it earlier as well.
Yep, and get my low point, like the stability of low point forward.
Yeah. But what is cool to look at is here, so when you're pushing the most on the blue graph upward, it's almost all with your left foot, which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
So your left foot's doing pretty much all the work, and it's not pushing straight up. It's actually pushing a bit upward, but also a bit backward, which is why you're getting force, imagine, away from the target, force up, and then you combine those two, and it looks like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess you're a little too 50-50, kind of around this point, maybe?
It's just a little late.
Just a tiny bit, and that for you produces a little bit more of this inside-out path.
Exactly.
And there's another extreme of this where people just are like chopping on top of the ball, and they're only on their left side.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they're like, I can't stop fading it.
Can't stop my path.
And they can actually make some really easy changes where we get you to actually move some pressure.
Exactly.
And for now, actually, it's okay to maybe swing a little bit more from the right side and not worry about being all over the left side. Let's get a little deeper into things that we can't measure with the plates and the cameras. I'm going to put a couple wrist sensors on and go from there. Nice. Nice. All right. So the reason off camera I asked you if your left-hand grip is weaker than it used to be, mainly because the grips are big.
Yeah.
It's basically saying you're less extended.
Yeah.
Which you are.
Yeah.
It just means basically less extended at address, meaning less angle, just means weaker grip.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's the only reason it says that.
Yep.
At the top, most of them were within +5 of 0, and your impacts are almost the same. Honestly, I would say I probably just didn't calibrate it perfect. You're probably close to 0 at the top.
Yeah.
Probably close to 0 at impact. Most of them are within a couple degrees. Your ulnar is, so basically how much hinge coming into impact, it's slightly on the higher side. which just is something you would see from someone who's swinging this fast. So the dotted line is like they call it Scott Koch's C pattern.
Okay.
So you're adding radial, meaning you're adding
that
kind of wrist cock late, adding lag late. Just think of it as that. So purple is rotation. So what is your wrist doing supinating versus pronating? So when is your hand facing up versus down? So obviously at the top, it's more facing down to the ground, and through impact, it releases this way.
Yeah.
You're basically spot on the type of flow that would happen. So the adding radial part, the part where you get impact, is right here. So really close to impact is the most lag you get. Really close to impact.
Right.
So it actually gets reasonably stable from the top, close to impact. If anything, the lag increases, and then it comes out well, obviously.
Yeah.
But it comes out in a short space of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is why you hit the ball really far. The flexion is smoother. So this pattern is interesting because the flexion kind of, if anything, is just close to zero. Like you're not a guy who's like flexing it. You're not really increasing the flexion. It's actually just very stable.
Right.
It's not moving. The thing that for you increases pace and is part of your release pattern is it's mostly this.
That.
So in that sense, you and I are the same. This is what mine looks like.
Yeah, yeah.
You do it a lot better, but that's pretty much the same flow. So what this would basically say is like, you have the potential to hit the ball the furthest out of all the patterns. You will also have a slight higher reliance on timing.
Yeah.
Which probably sounds pretty familiar.
Yeah, and when I met Calx, he was trying to get me to get stuff out.
Which would be the best thing he could do for you and any coach to just help you hit more greens.
Yeah, exactly.
So you hit the ball a
Plenty
distance
far.
that no one needs.
Yeah.
It's great. It's an advantage. You could afford to lose a club and just hit more greens.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, pretty stock one there.
Yeah.
Okay, murder one for me. Just like absolutely punish one. Try to hit it like 225 in there. Oh yeah. Love it. That's sick. 49, eh? That is a beaut. There's a lot of stuff about your swing, I think, like force and stuff. Most people look at your swing and go, yeah, it looks like a really nice balanced swing, and then they look at the club head speed like, it doesn't look like that's occurring.
Right.
And some of it will show up in this.
Right.
Like how your efficiency, I can guarantee your hand speed efficiency is like crazy good.
Right.
We know your ground efficiency is crazy good.
Right.
We know your positions are all very good, but it doesn't look like you're swinging 130.
It doesn't look.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Right? Just looks good. Your backswing plane is reading a little bit more on the upright side. I'm sure you know that.
Yep.
Your initial downswing direction, so like this,
Yeah.
you're right in the middle.
Yeah.
So you're very neutral. Nothing remotely off about that. Do you ever feel like you get a little narrow?
Yes. Again, same thing. Like I think of all of these things, like I kind of do this, and then I have to start pulling things to the ball.
It's not like horrendously narrow. It's not way off.
No, but
you're
it's
a little narrower than most. Now, partly people who are generating a lot of lag, you're not going to be casting it.
No.
You're slightly more on the narrow side.
Yep.
When I asked you to really hammer one, you got narrower.
Yeah.
Accuracy wise, at 200 smooth with 7-iron, you're going to be higher accuracy than when you try to push it to 220. It's cool, obviously, but like
fun.
There's a bit of a trade-off.
Yes.
Yeah, there'll be a bit of a trade-off. So hand speed, I'm trying to remember what they told me Bryson was at. I want to say it was 23, 24.
I was going to guess. I know
something like
that. I know really fast guys get up to 30.
I mean, that's madness.
Yeah, that's like long drive guys.
And with the driver.
Yes.
Yeah. So your 7-iron smooth was 23 and a half.
Yeah.
It's very high. Your 7-iron hard was actually almost the same. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
So there'll be a metric that changes, which I'll obviously show you.
Yep.
But it's interesting that the actual hand speed, for more club head speed, didn't really change much. I'll tell you something I have yet to see. So your shallowing number at the top is nice. So you're shallowing it by a couple degrees in transition, really nice. I have yet to see someone that good on a shallowing number at P5. So basically to get to P5 down, most people that can do this, myself included, steepen on the second time. I've yet to see someone do that. That's good.
So I shallowed both. Or
you were neutral on the second one?
Yeah.
Most people, myself included, can learn how to sort of fake shallow initially.
Do this thing.
Then it steepens anyway.
Yeah, then you're like,
from P5. So arm gets to parallel, it steepens from there.
Yeah.
And that's a huge exposure of someone that's learned some
like
things the wrong way.
Yeah.
I'm hitting a draw, a bit of a fake draw.
Right.
It's not efficient. So the change in hand speed, when does it break? So when does hand speed peak and then break?
Right.
So how much difference between your peak hand speed and impact hand speed.
Right.
People won't necessarily immediately be familiar with, you don't want your hand speed to be moving the fastest at the ball.
No.
Because then the club head would accelerate the most over here.
Right.
Ball's already gone.
Yep.
So we kind of want it somewhere around 20-ish inches prior to impact. That's when yours peaked, which is great. The more hand speed and the more difference between peak and impact, the faster you're going to swing.
Yeah.
So even though you didn't really swing your hands much faster the second time, your efficiency, so how much you braked it, went up by like 12%.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yep.
So I think what I was told is Bryson was around, like his best was around high 40s. Yours was 44% change.
Yeah.
So you're 44% slower at impact with the hands than here.
Yep.
So the club head's doing a lot of acceleration.
Yeah, right.
So that's why the number went up by 7, but technically your hand input didn't really change. Which is cool. It's just, it was way more efficient. So I think if someone's watching this and we bored them for 15 minutes and all they want to know is, why does Drew's swing look like nice and smooth and balanced, but the speed is like incredible? That would be probably one of the main things.
Yeah.
Honestly, if I could pick one thing in all these measurements and someone asked that question, I just pointed that.
To swing fast, yeah.
Yeah, it's this efficiency of peak hand speed to impact hand speed. Yours is exceptionally good.
Right.
On the smoother swing, 7-iron, delivered lofts at 21.5. So you had more shaft lean on the standard one,
right,
which makes sense. So the more that speed was being delivered efficiently, the more the shaft's kicking out, there's going to be more loft in the club.
Exactly, right.
Going to be more loft in the club. So not surprisingly, it is 2 degrees more dynamic loft on the super fast swing versus the stock one. The club head speed went up. Well, I was more than I thought. I was 9. I was 9 miles an hour faster.
Yeah.
It's wild. Launch angle was a couple degrees lower. So it's a different flight, but we can kind of see why. It's it's the amount of that, basically the head acceleration.
Yeah, it's just the angular stuff is speeding up, yeah.
It's moving past your hands at a higher rate to produce more speed, which is why it went 151 feet in the air versus very more controlled 120 for someone at your speed. And then probably on the ground side, we'll see a few things as well. So ignore me standing in the way, but your ground forces on the standard one, they'll look different. So
like they're very
your horizontal
mundane.
peak is not that high. It's a little bit more, just of a smooth motion there. So the horizontal is a lower peak than it will be on the second one. Your torque is, in the lower range compared to what you normally would.
Yep.
Your vertical is lower overall and later, like we talked about.
Yep.
When you try to hammer it,
the horizontal stuff changes big
you're
time.
way more horizontal force.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And a much bigger brake.
Rotational force is a lot higher.
On the faster one. Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's more than I would have thought on the 7-iron. So,
and again, you got to remember that's like like when you put all of this together and you put those vectors up, it's really just kind of like.
Yes.
And so I'm pushing my body sort of up, back, and away while the club lets out sort of down the line.
I think the more you push towards and the more you balance it with equal away, at the moment they meet, or I guess change direction, that's why your torque went up.
Yep.
And that's why people have a hard time producing more torque. They're just trying to spin their hips.
Yeah, right.
That's not how you create torque.
No.
And most people are going to learn that the hard way.
Yep.
Because your feet are what apply. You're not putting your hips on the force plates.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So they have no idea.
And it's like if I wanted to throw a medicine ball, I couldn't lift my feet off the ground and just twist and throw it very hard.
Yeah.
I need to load things up and use everything.
Yeah. That's why so many other sports use these plates, because it shows how you need to create. If you want to create more speed, it's going to have to be done the right way.
Yeah.
And you can waste a lot of time trying to. We talked about getting open with the hips. Good luck.
Yeah.
If you aren't producing the rotational force out of the feet that turns the hips, you're just spinning in space.
Yeah.
Basically.
It's just
And it's not doing anything.
No.
For you. Yeah. Awesome, buddy.